Bapak dan Ibu yang terhormat, ladies and gentlemen, as our warmest greetings, we would like to present to you the spirit of Nusantara dance. It is a combination of traditional dance from a number of regions in Indonesia, representing the culture and diversity of Indonesia. Since East Kalimantan is a melting pot of various ethnicity, mainly from the three pillars of great cultures in the life of Indonesian today: coastal culture by the Malay community, inland culture by the Dayak community, and Keraton culture by the royal lineage. The traditional dance itself is a portrayal of the spirit of unity from the land of the kings, Bumi Mulawarman. So without further ado, please welcome the spirit of Nusantara traditional dance. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Good evening, distinguished guests, Bapak Ibu yang terhormat, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Balikpapan, East Kalimantan, Indonesia. My name is Bunga Harumdani, and it is my honor to be your host for the third pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia 2022, Sustainable and Livable Planet. For your information, this event is held in accordance to health protocols and COVID-19 regulation in Indonesia. All of our speakers and performers have been fully vaccinated and tested negative. So they will remove their mask for a better performance. However, for attending participant here, we advise you to wear your mask throughout the event. And we would like to remind you that you can refill your drink bottle at the station we have prepared. And for your information, the design of our stage today is inspired by the pre-design of the Presidential Palace made by popular Balinese sculptor Inyoman Nuarta. It features a large Garuda, the mythical bird on the national emblem of Indonesia that symbolizes unity and corresponds to Indonesian motto Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which means unity in diversity. Kita berikan aplaus untuk salah satu mahakarya dari anak bangsa. Baik, before we begin, we would like to extend our warmest welcome to our distinguished guests. Good evening and welcome to Her Excellency, Ms. Siti Nurbaya Bakar, Minister of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia. Selamat malam, Ibu Menteri. His Excellency Zainuddin Amali, Minister of Youth and Sport of the Republic of Indonesia, represented by Mr. Joni Mardizal, Acting Secretary of Ministry of Youth and Sport. Pak Sesmen, terima kasih sudah berkenan hadir, Pak. His Excellency Mr. Isranur, Governor of East Kalimantan. Selamat malam, Bapak. Ms. Satu Kahkonen, Country Directory of World Bank Indonesia and Timur Leste, and all of the co-chair of Y20 Indonesia 2022. To everyone here today in Novotel Balikpapan and to all of delegates, participants, and invited guests around the world who are watching virtually. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the third pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia 2022, Sustainable and Livable Planet. On behalf of the committee, I would like to thank you for your enthusiasm. I can see that we have a full house today. Boleh kita berikan tepuk tangan, luar biasa antusiasmenya. Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu. Baiklah Bapak Ibu, Youth 20 is a forum for future young leaders from all countries. Of G20 members, we are here to discuss and exchange ideas to reach a joint agreement in regard to the agenda of the G20 presidency with our theme from recovery to resilience, rebuilding the youth agenda beyond COVID-19. This year's summit will be held in Jakarta and Bandung, Indonesia in July 2022. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like you to rise from your seat for the national anthem for the Republic of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, led by Rinanda Maharani. Thank you. You may be seated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, next, we will show you a video to introduce the Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, or IYD, as the organizing committee of Y20 Indonesia 2022, and to show you what we have accomplished so far on the road to Y20 Indonesia 2022.
Indonesian Youth Diplomacy is a non-profit youth organization that actively promotes international exposure and drives inclusive empowerment for Indonesian youths to be influential voices at the national and international level. Through its 4 overriding missions: sustainability, inclusivity, relevance, and impact, we aim to ensure that the Indonesian youths understand the importance of their voice and role in national and global diplomacy and policymaking. Following the G20 presidency of Indonesia, IYD was given the mandate to be the official organizing committee for Y20 Indonesia 2022. Since 2010, Indonesia has been represented at the Y20 summits by astounding youths. 2010 G20 Youth Summit Vancouver, Canada. 2011 G20 Youth Summit Paris, France. 2012 G20 Youth Summit Washington, D.C., USA. 2013 Y8 Summit London, United Kingdom. 2013 Y20 Summit St. Petersburg, Russia. 2014 Y20 Summit Sydney, Australia. 2015 Y20 Summit Istanbul, Turkey. 2016 Y20 Summit Beijing and Shanghai, China. 2017 Y20 Summit Berlin, Germany. 2018 Y20 Summit Cordoba, Argentina. 2019 Y20 Summit Tokyo, Japan. 2020 Y20 Summit Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And 2021 Y20 Summit Milan, Italy. And now, it is time to welcome the Y20 delegates to our home, Indonesia. Right after Y20 Italy 2021, we started with a post-summit dissemination of the Y20 Italy 2021 communique with our G20 co-Sherpas and various stakeholders. Then we moved on to roadshows for the Indonesian delegate selection process and held a media gathering for the launch of Y20 Indonesia 2022. In January, we launched the Y20 White Paper. And finally, we carried out our recruitment of the Indonesian and ASEAN delegation for Y20 Indonesia 2022. This year, our theme is From Recovery to Resilience, Rebuilding the Youth Agenda Beyond COVID-19, with 4 priority areas: youth employment, digital transformation, sustainable and livable planet, and diversity and inclusion. This year, for each pre-summits, we shall take you around Indonesia, where you shall see our diversity, cultures, people, and especially our youths. All of these will bring us to the Y20 Summit, which shall take place in 2 cities, Jakarta and Bandung. Y20 Summit Indonesia 2022 will also give youth startups and initiatives a chance to present their works by providing them a forum to network and for the international community to acknowledge them and perhaps be interested in purchasing their products at the Y20 2022 Virtual Expo. So let us move from recovery to resilience by rebuilding the youth agenda beyond COVID-19. See you at the Y20 Summit Indonesia 2022.
Ladies and gentlemen, moving on with our event, we will observe a report by the co-chair of Y20 Indonesia 2022. Please welcome Mr. Indra Dwi Prasetyo.
Selamat malam. Good evening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam Ruhi Rahayu. Her Excellency Ibu Siti Nurbaya Bakar, Minister of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia. Give applause to Ibu Siti. Terima kasih Ibu sudah hadir. His Excellency Bapak Zainuddin Amali, Minister of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Indonesia. Bapak Isran Nur, the Governor of East Kalimantan. Terima kasih Pak sudah berkenan hadir. Bapak Jeffrey Cohen from USAID Indonesia, thank you. Our fellow national and local co-chairs, our esteemed talk show speakers and sponsors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here with you today in the beautiful city of Balikpapan, one of the most livable cities in Indonesia, in this opening of Y20 Pre-Summit 3. We will actively discuss, debate, argue about the topic of sustainable and livable planet, attended by more than 200 participants. Give applause for all the participants. The past 2 years, we have shown the world that we live in today is currently experiencing structural shift from Industry 4.0 to the impacts of warming planet, geopolitical, as well as geo-economic changes. Most of these changes, unfortunately, driven by human activities, which have strained our planetary system to near breaking point. We cannot underscore this importance of healthy planet, not just for human health, but also for the health of the all other organisms in this planet Earth. While we have relied on our planet to fulfill most of our aspects of lives, to produce food, supply water, and provide other materials that we consume, we cannot deny that we sometimes take it for granted. We have seen an increase of climate-driven crises, such as extreme weather conditions, all over the world. Unfortunately, these are not rare occurrences, but part of trend that the health of our planet is at risk. There is still time to act. But now, it is not just to go back to our business as usual. In order to do this, we need to think in a framework that is beneficial not just for planet, but also for the people. I'm honored to stand and raise this issue today in this very important forum for youth. According to survey, our internal survey from Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, 73% of youth across the G20 countries are worried about the state of the planet right now. And 64% don't believe people in power are listening to their concerns about the issue. Well, this worry is felt across the globe. Youth in low and middle income countries are more vulnerable due to exposure to more risk factors, including lack of social safety nets, so lack of access and information when climate-related events disrupt their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, that is why we bring such issues on our first and second pre-summit, talking about job employment and digital transformations for youth. In the past years, there have been several youth initiatives outlining demands for more planetary actions. Today, I'm reiterating the need for change, as it has become clearer right now that our planet cannot support our current way of living, our resource overuse, our excessive waste generations, our linear model of economy, among others. While countries around the world are slowly recovering from the pandemic, There is opportunity to transform key economic system that would better support a sustainable and livable planet. This is the decade of action. I say it again, this is the decade of action. And we must act now to secure a safer and more sustainable future. While we undergo these transformations, we have to ensure that it must be inclusive, it must be equitable, both within and between countries, so that no one is left behind. The G20 countries have a key role in playing and addressing this crisis, and the forum is well placed to give rise to such transformations, for example, by promoting the shift to a nature positive and circular economy within the world's ledger's economics. To do so would require major changes through education, knowledge, information networks, behavior nudges, innovation and technology, private finance and markets, policies, incentives, and public spending, as well as monitoring and accountability mechanism. Last but not least, the power of youth, their voices, their networks, their connections should be leveraged by this forum to help forge the path of reconnection with the nature for a sustainable and livable future for all. I believe youth is not all about the future. We are the present ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Indra, for the report. Next, we will listen to the welcoming remarks from the Minister of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Indonesia, represented by Acting Secretary of the Ministry. Please welcome Mr. Johnny Mardizal.
Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, on behalf of the Minister, Youth or Sport of the Government Indonesia, let me apologize that Minister was unable to attend on this occasion. Then I was given the opportunity to represent them. Next, let me deliver a speech by the Minister of Youth and Sport of the Republic of Indonesia at the third pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia 2022. Habis siang, datanglah petang. Saatnya pulang si pengembara. Bukan datang sembarang datang. Saya datang mewakili Menpora. Yang sama-sama kita hormati dan kita banggakan Ibu Siti Nurbaya Bakar, Menteri Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan Republik Indonesia. Yang saya hormati Bapak Isran Nur, Gubernur Kalimantan Timur. Yang saya hormati Ibu Satu Kahkonen, Country Director World Bank. Yang saya hormati Bapak Rahmat Masud, sahabat saya, Wali Kota Balikpapan. Yang saya hormati para pembicara dan para tamu undangan, serta para co-chair Y20 Indonesia 2022, serta delegasi dan OSER Y20 yang hadir secara langsung maupun hadir secara virtual. Izinkan saya menyampaikan sambutan dari Bapak Menteri Pemuda dan Olahraga, karena beliau pada saat ini sedang berada di Hanoi, Vietnam, dalam mendampingi para pahlawan olahraga kita. Mudah-mudahan sama-sama kita doakan harapan dari Bapak Presiden dan rakyat Indonesia semua, kita bisa menduduki peringkat yang baik di SEA Games 31 Vietnam tahun 2022 ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. Salam kebajikan. Segala puji bagi Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa, karena atas rahmat dan karunia-Nya, hari ini kita dapat berkumpul dan berkesempatan untuk berpartisipasi dalam penyelenggaraan Pra-KTT Y20 Indonesia 2022, planet yang berkelanjutan dan layak huni di Balikpapan, Kalimantan Timur. Seperti yang kita ketahui, Pra-KTT Y20 ini adalah rangkaian dari keseluruhan agenda Y20, yang dimana puncaknya pada pelaksanaan KTT Y20 Indonesia 2022 yang akan diadakan di Jakarta dan Bandung pada tanggal 17 sampai 24 Juli 2022. Para delegasi yang saya hormati, hadirin sekalian, isu prioritas yang dibahas pada Pra-KTT kali ini menjadi isu yang sangat penting dan harus menjadi isu yang lekat bagi anak muda. Isu lingkungan yang pada kesempatan kali ini dibalut dalam topik dan isu prioritas, yakni planet yang berkelanjutan dan layak huni, menjadi isu hangat yang perlu pembahasan lebih lanjut dan perlu solusi konkret, khususnya bagi anak muda. Anak muda akan mewarisi kehidupan di planet bumi untuk jangka panjang. Jika tidak dicari solusi atas masalah-masalah lingkungan yang saat ini tengah terjadi, kehidupan manusia juga berada dalam ancaman. Kehidupan anak muda juga berada dalam ancaman. Konsumsi dan penggunaan sumber daya alam pada tingkat penggunaan yang tidak dapat diregenerasikan oleh bumi, sehingga sumber daya alam dapat langsung habis dan tidak dapat dinikmati oleh generasi mendatang. Dan pada kesempatan ini, dua subprioritas yang akan dibahas adalah safeguarding natural capital dan atau penjagaan sumber daya alam dan circular economy based on sustainable production and consumption atau konsumsi dan produksi berkelanjutan melalui ekonomi sirkular. Para delegasi yang saya hormati, hadirin yang berbahagia, saya mengapresiasi panitia Y20 Indonesia 2022 yang telah berupaya menghadirkan para praktisi dan pembicara yang berfokus pada kegiatan-kegiatan yang berkelanjutan. Semoga hasil diskusi bersama para pembicara, praktisi, delegasi, observer, maupun anak muda Indonesia, khususnya anak muda di Pulau Kalimantan, dapat menghasilkan rekomendasi-rekomendasi berupa solusi konkret untuk penyelesaian masalah lingkungan yang saat ini sedang terjadi. Termasuk dukungan dari Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan, pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur, dan pihak-pihak lainnya dalam membantu substansi acara agar aspek sustainability dapat tercapai. Kami sangat memberikan apresiasi atas dukungan-dukungan tersebut. Saya mengajak kita semua untuk bersama mengawali diskusi-diskusi ini. Sudah waktunya kita bertindak aktif dan bersama-sama memastikan semua pihak mau bekerja sama dalam menciptakan kehidupan yang berkelanjutan untuk masa depan planet kita yang lebih baik. Demikian yang dapat saya sampaikan pada kesempatan ini. Nikmati acara dan selalu jaga kesehatan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Rahayu, Om Santi Santi Om. Semoga Tuhan memberkati kita semua. Menteri Pemuda dan Olahraga Republik Indonesia, Dr. Zainuddin Amali. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now the time for us to invite Country Director of World Bank Indonesia and Timur-Leste for her keynote speech. Please welcome Ms. Satu Kakonen. Baik, sekali lagi kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh hadirin yang sudah berkenan hadir baik secara online maupun secara langsung di Novotel Balikpapan. Tidak hanya para pemuda-pemuda ya, para youth yang sudah hadir, namun juga Bapak Ibu tamu undangan sekalian, kita akan segera melihat atau mendengarkan video yang disampaikan oleh Director of World Bank Indonesia and Timor Leste, Miss Satu Kahkonen sesaat lagi. Dan tentunya masih banyak rangkaian acara yang akan dihadirkan. Baik, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Satu Kahkonen.
Your Excellency, Ibu Siti, Minister of Environment and Forestry, Your Excellency, Pak Zainuddin, Minister of Youth and Sports Affairs, Your Excellency, Pak Isran, Governor of East Kalimantan, Y20 delegates, distinguished participants. It's my great pleasure to speak at the Y20 pre-summit today. I'm pleased that you delegates have gathered to discuss how we can together make our planet more sustainable and more livable. I'm very sorry I cannot be with you today in person. Climate change is the defining challenge of our times. Every day we are witnessing its local and global impacts. And we know that, like nature, climate change does not recognize geographic borders. No country, no people are immune to its impacts. By 2050, this global phenomenon will push more than 200 million people to move within their countries. In the next 10 years, it may force more than 130 million people into poverty. And it could cut crop yields and intensify the frequency and severity of disasters. So, what can we do to prevent that? As you know, several climate mitigation and adaptation measures are at our disposal. Let me share a few with you. First, on mitigating climate change, we as global citizens need to drastically cut global emissions. We can do this by supporting communities around the world to accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. It is also critical to manage forests sustainably, as they store large amounts of carbon. Further, addressing land-based emissions by preventing forest fires, conserving peatlands, and shifting in agriculture to low-carbon production technologies and methods are also crucial. By doing so, we can contribute to economic growth, reduce poverty, reduce emissions, and protect and strengthen our environment, both locally and globally. At the World Bank, we bring together actors across economic sectors to implement integrated landscape programs that enhance people's livelihoods while delivering ecosystem benefits, such as carbon sequestration and biodiversity conservation. Secondly, to adapt to the climate change, we need to increase our capacity to weather climate shocks. This will require adjustment across sectors to climate smart and resilient approaches. For example, to climate smart agriculture. Aside from projects supporting early warning systems and disaster response, The World Bank advances nature-based solutions where we invest in natural systems to provide critical services. These include protection and management of wetlands for flood mitigation and mangroves to reduce the impact of waves, storm surges, and coastal erosion. We are also working with the government to pilot so-called sponge cities to help manage urban flooding. All these measures, mitigation and adaptation, require major social, economic, and technological changes, which the World Bank is actively supporting. We are the world's largest financier of climate action in developing countries. We delivered over $26 billion in 2021 alone. We support countries to develop in ways that are greener, more inclusive, and more climate resilient. We do this by providing expertise, technical assistance, and financing to support countries manage their lands, oceans, and renewable natural resources in a sustainable way. This helps create jobs, improve livelihoods, enhance ecosystem services, decrease pollution, and increase resilience to climate change. The Indonesian government has made laudable commitments to transition to a low-carbon economy, and we are pleased to support the government's efforts to scale up clean energy, promote sustainable landscape and oceans management, and mobilize climate finance. We are working closely with Ibu Siti and the Ministry of Environment and Forestry to conserve and restore mangroves and pay for forest conservation and reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in East Kalimantan. What Indonesia has already achieved in East Kalimantan could result in the largest ever emission reduction payment in the whole world. And that payment would provide incentives to all to care for and protect our planet. Making our planet a better place to live requires a whole of society approach. And the youth is a critical part of that movement. We stand ready to collaborate with you to explore innovative ideas and to tackle climate change and provide tools to build and engage in impactful activities. Youth delegates, you represent the immense aspiration of our global community. We know that you have so much to offer in producing ideas and awareness on climate action. We count on you to convey these aspirations to the G20 heads and governments. And we count on your innovation and passion to ensure that we together build a sustainable and livable earth for all. Thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you, Ms. Satu Kakonen, for the remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, hosting this remarkable event has been one of the proudest moments for East Kalimantan province. So we would like to invite the governor of East Kalimantan for the opening speech of the third party summit of Y20 Indonesia. Please welcome His Excellency Bapak Isra Nur.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'in wa ala umuri dunya waddin. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad amma ba'd. Bong Noa, Bong Nui, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Yang saya hormati Ibu Menteri Kehutanan dan Lingkungan Hidup, Ibu Profesor Dr. Siti Nurbaya, dengan seluruh pejabat tinggi media di Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup, termasuk penguasa gambut dan mangrove. Yang saya hormati yang mewakili Menteri Pemuda dan Olahraga, local chapter ya, ada yang dari and my Balikpapan Mayor, Mr. Rahmat Masud. Stand up, berdiri. He is very handsome. All participants from Y20 Indonesia presidency, G20 presidency, all over the world. On behalf of the provincial government of East Kalimantan, I would like to welcome you all here in the new capital city of Republic of Indonesia. You are from region. Here, the capital city of Republic Indonesia. Hopefully. We are proud and happy you here. And welcome all of the attendees for Y20 Indonesia G20 Presidency 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, the province of East Kalimantan is located on the island of Borneo. We call it now Kalimantan, with a population more or less 4 million people. The capital city will be developed, will be built with concept of green city, forest city, and sustainable city, also modern city. There's no city on the world except here. Province of East Kalimantan will maintain the existing forestry. and committed to supporting the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions through the reducing emission from degradation and forest degradation plus program. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully through the pre-summit Y20 Indonesia, the G20 Indonesia presidency, and field visits to see up close the real condition of forest and environment in the area. It will open the world eyes about the real Indonesia generally, East Kalimantan generally, especially around Balikpapan city. Once again, I say welcome, happy discussing and bringing good memories from visits to Balikpapan city. This is the owner, Mr. Rahmat Masud, and East Kalimantan province in general. Saya kira itu saja. Jaga kesehatan, jangan abai. Saya punya tanggung jawab untuk menyampaikan ini kepada masyarakat Indonesia. Makasih, mohon maaf. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om.
Baik, kita berikan aplaus untuk Bapak Gubernur.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam, luar biasa Bapak. Terima kasih sudah memberikan semangat untuk kita. Thank you for making us all relax a little. I feel like moving to Kaltim soon. Okay. Now we would like to invite the Minister of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia. Her Excellency will deliver a keynote speech and officially open the third pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia. Please welcome Her Excellency Ibu Siti Nurbaya Bakar.
Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom Om Swastiastu. Yang saya hormati His Excellency the Governor of East Kalimantan and the City Mayor of Balikpapan dan Forkompimda, the Secretary of the Ministry of Youth and Sports, the World Bank Country Director, which is representing Ms. Satu, USAID Director, the CEO of RSPO, and the one we proud of, the Y20 co-chairs. We have also here the G20 Environment Deputy Meeting and Climate Sustainable Working Group chairs and DGs, deputies and senior advisors for the ministers of the Republic of Indonesia and Chief of Peatland and Mangrove Board, BRGM, honorable speakers, senior journalists, business leaders, aktivis, prominent persons, distinguished delegates, dan seluruh generasi muda yang saya cintai. Very good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. Let us offer praise and gratitude to Allah because by His grace, we can gather here in good health and well-being. It is an honor for me to be here with you all on this occasion. First, I would like to once again welcome you all to Balikpapan, an outstanding city in the youth and environmental movement, so that it has received the Youth Design City Award in 2019. Balikpapan also won the title of champion at the ASEAN level environmentally sustainable cities ESC in 2021. Congratulations, Balikpapan. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the G20 presidency of Indonesia is a momentum to realize bolder collective action in overcoming the three planetary crises, namely the climate crisis, loss of biodiversity, and human overpopulation, all three of which are interrelated and have caused various problems on the planet today. Through the theme Recover Together, Recover Stronger, the G20 presidency of Indonesia aims to invite the entire world and all stakeholders to work together, support one another to recover together, recover stronger, and be more sustainable. In the context of today's challenge, climate change, the adoption of the Glasgow Climate Pact, and other decisions during the 26th meeting of the UNFCCC Conference of Parties in 2021 have also emphasized the urgent need to scale up collective emission reduction efforts through accelerated action and implementation of domestic mitigation measures, as well as important role for protect, conserve, and restore nature and ecosystem in order to provide benefits for climate adaptation and mitigation while ensuring social and environmental protection. On that role, one of the aim of Indonesia G20 presidency is to capture pressing topics on global processes and developments to provide concrete actions. These topics then became a set of priority issues at the G20 Environment Deputy Meeting and Climate Sustainability Working Group, one of which is supporting a more sustainable recovery to promote sustainable and environmentally sound economic development by maximizing additional benefits from the post-COVID-19 recovery program and the achievement of sustainable development goals. In this regard, a sustainable and livable environmental condition is an essential challenge for all of us. As future successors, young generation are expected to have a big role in overcoming the current environmental crisis. Therefore, the Youth 20 Forum is expected to continue to encourage, firstly, the implementation of the circular economy model. Secondly, strengthening partnership between G20 countries and young people who are agents of change in creating a safe, inclusive, sustainable, and decent living environment for all. The synergy of the G20 environment and climate sustainability and Youth 20 as one of the engagement group is surely a milestone in our joint efforts to protect the environment and face climate change towards a more sustainable future and climate resilience. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, concrete actions in addressing environmental and climate change issues cannot only be carried out by the government. Everyone plays an important role including the young generation. The young generation could become actors and play an active role in making a positive contribution in suppressing greenhouse gases and strengthening climate resilience. Through active involvement in climate change control agendas such as reduce, reuse, and recycle waste, the energy transition by encouraging the use of renewable and environmentally friendly energy sources, limiting the use of fossil fuel vehicles, and planting trees on large scale, as well as developing creation and innovation technology relevant to explore emission reduction effort. They are one of the determinants of success in preventing global temperature increases. As a generation that will become the workforce in the energy transition era towards net zero emission in 2060 or sooner, the young generation will be the determinant in accelerating the transformation of the workforce from the use of fossil-based fuels to being based on new and renewable energy. Reducing greenhouse gases emission to prevent the Earth's temperature from rising to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius is largely determined by ambitious greenhouse gases reduction efforts in the 2020 to 2030. For these reasons, the existence of the young generation who cares about climate actions and clean energy needs to be encouraged. The young generation has the characteristic of daring to express opinions, having the ability to absorb new values and ideas, being innovative, creative, having interesting new ideas, high and dynamic mobility, solidarity, and high social awareness, caring and responsive to the surrounding events, as well as having pure ideals, positive thinking, and being independent also likes to share knowledge so that they would be highly influential to drive global climate agendas. Currently, the world is inhabited by 1.8 billion people aged of 10 to 24 years. In Indonesia, 65 million people, are about 20% of the population, are in the age of that category. The existence of the young generation today is the largest in history. This is the time for the young generation to show their great potential and become an important part of the decision-making process. This is the time for all of us to take real action. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in our way to pursuing a sustainable and livable planet, the main challenge is how to manage natural resources and meet development needs while minimizing greenhouse gases as low as possible. In response to this challenge, the two main sectors that are being pushed to reduce Indonesia's greenhouse gases emissions are in the forestry and other land use value sector, as well as the energy sector. As regard to the forest and land use, we call it value sector, while aiming to accelerate the country's national emission reduction, Indonesia has initiated the forestry and other land use net sink 2030, an approach and strategy where by 2030, the absorption level of value sector is already balanced or higher than the emission level. The value sector is targeted to reduce nearly 60% of the total Indonesia national emission reduction target. After 2030, Indonesia value sector is targeted to be able to absorb greenhouse gases along with greenhouse gases emission reduction from energy transition or decarbonization, as well as exploration activities in other sectors, including the agriculture sector, to achieve net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. Agenda for Volume Net Sink 2030 have already the legal basis as regulated in the presidential decree in 2021 and in more detail has been stipulated February this year as a ministerial decree on the operational plan of the Volume Net Sink 2030. Therefore, the concept of carbon neutral or net zero emission has been initiated by Indonesia by playing an active role through leading by example for controlling climate change. Leading by example has been shown by our corrective steps for past 7 years. Meanwhile, from the energy sector, greenhouse gases emissions are driven by transformation in energy sector, namely the transition towards setting up and phasing out the operation of coal power plants and substitution with large-scale development of new and renewable energy, including the elaboration of potential new sources of renewable energy such as hydrogen, wave, and tidal energy. Among these steps, in the new and renewable energy program, one of them is through the encouragement of industrial plantation forest for bioenergy, the use of water, environmental services for micro hydro technology, the use of waste into electrical energy, and the use of geothermal energy. Our continuous work on the field show that young generation is increasingly and actively involved in climate-related action and the transition to clean energy. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us continue to consolidate various elements in our society, especially the young generation, academicians, government, business leaders, and activists to continue taking climate action as well as the consolidation of ideas to protect the country's nature, such as restoring the tropical natural forest of Kalimantan within the development plan of Ibu Kota Negara, the new capital city, the new national capital city, as mentioned by our governor. IKN is a capital city that has been processed and analyzed with the right environmental and forestry analysis approach, and according to standard, where in the process applies the principle of low emissions, provides carbon economic value for the people, and provide justice to indigenous and customary adat communities. The government is committed to initiating development of IKN by rehabilitating existing forests as part of efforts to restore Indonesia's natural forests. The Forest and Land Rehabilitation Program has always been one of the priority program of our ministry, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, including mangrove, in which we'll have field action of mangrove tomorrow afternoon. This is reflecting an effort to improve environmental quality in Indonesia, especially in East Kalimantan, where IKN is located. The development of IKN will go hand in hand with environmental restoration measures. It's not just a jargon. We really have to work, and let's make it a momentum together. This is a great opportunity. We will develop IKN with the concept of forest city, green city, or smart city. Let's do it well and correctly and not be half-hearted. In the future, IKN will become an example for other regions in its design that is suitable for natural conditions and its process that reflects low emission. As this year, the East Kalimantan province has shown their successful work on emission reduction through forest carbon partnership facilities, FCPF, supported by World Bank and result-based payment. Then give applause for East Kalimantan. We will continue to work on this. What is being carried out is an example that we are able to apply the principle of sustainable development and that there is a balance of roles between various countries in the noble goal of protecting the earth and humans from the adverse impacts of climate change. We do have the opportunity to set good example and serious work in addressing climate change. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all in all, I do sincerely hope that this forum could serve as an opportunity to strengthen our collaborative actions towards a sustainable and livable planet to provide environmental, social, and economic benefits not only at the local level, but also nationally and globally. I also encourage the active role of the youth, all distinguished delegates and participants of this forum and various sectors simultaneously to form concrete action for the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generation while maintaining the continuity of the supporting and carrying capacities of the environment for environmental and climate protection. As a concrete example of this action, tomorrow again together we will carry out mangrove planting. With this, I would like to conclude my speech. Let's collaborative in walk the talk. In our work on environmental sustainability, we will concentrate on our discussion of this youth forum on planet and sustainable and livable. From Indonesia, world would recover together, recover stronger. I thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom Om. Santi, Santi, Santi.
Terima kasih Bu Menteri, mohon kesediaan untuk tetap di atas panggung. Please stay on the stage. For opening ceremony, we would like to also invite Governor of East Kalimantan, Mr. Isran Nur. Kami persilakan Co-Chair of Y20 Indonesia 2022, Mr. Indra Dwi Prasetyo, and also Ms. Rahayu Saraswati. Chairperson of Local Committee, Ms. Ai Natasha. Chairperson of Local Committee, Ms. Hana Pertiwi. Bapak Ibu siap untuk berkenan melakukan opening ceremony procession? Our local committee will hand over the tree of hope to our governor, Mr. Isran Nur, and our Minister of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia will join the governor holding the tree of hope to mark our opening ceremony. Kami persilakan kepada local committee untuk menyerahkan kepada Gubernur Bapak Isran Nur, dan Bapak akan bersama-sama memegang, Ibu izin, kita akan hitung mundur bersama. On my mark, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we officially open the third pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia 2022 Sustainable and Livable Planet. Please give a round of applause as the third pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia 2022 is now officially open. Bapak Ibu mohon berkenan untuk berfoto bersama di tengah, silakan Ibu izin. We kindly ask you to stay on the stage and stand together for a moment to take a group photo. Miss Siti Nurbaya at the center of the stage. Ya, betul Bapak. Baik, kita abadikan Bapak Ibu. On my mark, 3, 2, 1. Once again, 3, 2, 1. Kita beri tepuk tangan yang meriah Bapak Ibu. Terima kasih. Kami persilakan Ibu Menteri, Pak Gubernur untuk kembali ke tempat. Thank you, Your Excellencies. You may return to your seat. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, next, now let us witness the wonders of Borneo and the virtual city tour of Paradise of the East. You will see extraordinary cultural diversity, heritage, and the people, especially the youth of Central Indonesia. Please enjoy the wonderful East Kalimantan and virtual tour of the city. Please, please give a big round of applause. Thank you.
What's up, yo generation? I am Yoko and my partner
Oli, and we're in
is Kalimantan. So right now we are at Sultan Haji Muhammad Sulaiman Spinggan International Airport here at Balikpapan.
Yes, and that's right, Yoko. This is one of the biggest airports here at Kalimantan.
Alright, so our first destination will be Balikpapan City.
So what are you waiting for? Let's go.
Let's go.
Bam!
Now we are at Sunbra Education and Conservation Center.
And we're about to check out this place. So let's go.
Ollie, don't make some noise. We don't want to stress out the bear.
I forgot we have to keep a low profile to check out the bears. So let's go.
So guys, this place is not a captivation for the bears, but instead this place is a rehabilitation for them.
That's true. So this place has 7 sun bears. 5 of them are male and 2 of them are female. And sun bears is also the mascot of Balikpapan City.
Ollie,
Yeah?
it's fun seeing sun bears, but I want to know more about this oil city.
Well, we're now in Kangkung village. It's a village in the middle of the city.
Oh, so here's what's called as Kang Bejo,
Yes.
which is a farm in the middle of the city. It's such a really big farm.
That sure is indeed. And you are very well prepared to take out some kale out, sir.
Yep, I already to plant some kales.
Okay, then let's go.
Okay guys, so if you're visiting Balikpapan, it's not actually complete if you're going without bringing some souvenirs for your family.
That's true, Yoko. And now we're in Pasar Impres Kebun Sayur Pandansari.
That's right.
So what is in this market, Yoko? Can you tell me?
So, Ollie, in this traditional market is different than usual daily market, which sells vegetables. But in here, you will be presented with various accessories.
So if you want to know what we're going to buy,
Just stay tuned.
yes, stay tuned. Come on. We're here at one of the famous restaurants in Balikpapan City, and we're sitting down at Dan Vito's restaurant. What do you think, Yoko?
That's right, Ollie. And the restaurant also serve mostly seafood.
The most favorite dish is the crab mart, right? With black pepper sauce in it. Oh my god, I'm drooling right now. Yoko, do you have anything to
Of
explain?
course, I have it. So this is the soka crab,
Yeah.
which is the soft shell crab, so we can eat it instantly.
Okay.
And also we have both iconic dishes from Balikpapan.
Yes.
And here is pisang gapit, and this is mantau bread.
Ooh, I'm so starving. Let's dig in, shall we?
Now let's go.
Okay.
Wow, it's so big.
So, for your information, to battle with this crab, we have to use this kind of tool. to crack it open and let's get our hands dirty.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank
I'm Rudy,
you.
the owner of this restaurant. How do you like my restaurant?
I really love seafood and I really enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Please
much.
enjoy your food.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
It's an honor.
Alright, so on our next journey to reveal another paradise in East Borneo,
We're now at Tenggarong City. And where we're going next?
I think we could go to Bangkurai Hills.
Okay, let's check it out. And here we are at one of the rainforests in East Kalimantan. And where to be exact, Yoko?
Precisely to Bangkurai Hills, which is located at Samboja, Kutai Kartanegara. And now we are about to hike a bit to one of the bridge here to see the beautiful view of Bangkurai Hills.
That's right, and we're about to discover a new bridge right on top of us. So let's go.
Let's go. Now we are live at Papang Village.
After visiting Balikpapan City, Tenggarong Ores, Kutai Kartanegara, now we're at one of the famous villages here at Samarinda that is inhabited by the Dayak Kenya tribe. Yoko, where are we at right now?
So we are at Pesawat Bentong Boat, and now we are going to see the view of Samarinda City.
Okay, come on, let's go. I'm so starving. Can we get dinner?
Let's go.
Okay. Hey!
Oli, it's exciting exploring the whole East Kalimantan.
Yes, and now we're having our dinner at Yellow Rice. So let's dig in.
Okay, round of the 10.
It's delicious. Do you want to know a fun fact about yellow rice? That yellow rice traditionally is served as breakfast, but it's okay for us to eat it as dinner or as a midnight feast. So it's okay for you to be starving all night long, because yellow rice will be there to save your life.
It's been a thrilling adventure here in East Kalimantan. I have to admit, it's not enough to visit this beautiful island within 2 days. I wish we could show you more hidden paradises, but I'm afraid we have to say our farewells and hope we can explore together again very soon. I am Yoko.
And I'm Ollie.
Escape to East Borneo.
Get lost in paradise.
See you at Balikpapan.
The third pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia 2022.
Goodbye.
Such a wonderful place and exotic destination. Ladies and gentlemen, let us witness the parade of delegation of Y20 countries. Please welcome Argentina. India. Indonesia. Japan. Malaysia. Republic of Korea. Russia. Saudi Arabia. Singapore. Thailand. Vietnam. And as a part of inclusivity of Y20 Indonesia 2022, representing refugee from Afghanistan. And finally, we present to you the official delegates and observers to the Y20 Indonesia 2022.
Young leaders across the globe will gather in Indonesia to discuss global challenges, negotiate, and agree on policy recommendations they would like to see G20 leaders take forward. From the Americas, the delegates of Argentina, the delegates of Brazil, the delegates of Canada, the delegates of Mexico, the delegates of United States of America, from Europe, the delegates of European Union, the delegates of France, the delegates of Germany, the delegates of Italy, the delegates of Russia, the delegates of Turkey, the delegates of United Kingdom, from Africa, the delegates of South Africa, from Australia, the delegates of Australia, from Asia, the delegates of China, the delegates of India, the delegates of Japan, the delegates of Saudi Arabia. The delegates of the Republic of Korea. The observers, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Asian Development Bank. Indigenous peoples and local communities. Islamic Development Bank. Person with disabilities. Refugee. Spain. Timor-Leste. United Arab Emirates. World Bank. World Trade Organizations. And please welcome the host country delegate, Indonesia.
Ladies and gentlemen, first SLP pre-summit in Balikpapan provides a forum for both domestic and international young leaders to discuss and exchange ideas. The topic will be focusing on sustainable, livable planet with priority areas in safeguarding nature and promoting a circular economy. This issue is especially relevant for youth as they will continue to inhabit increasingly uncertain planet long after older generation would have passed. Therefore, youth have the largest stake in this planetary crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, terima kasih untuk kehadiran Ibu Menteri. Kita berikan aplaus kepada Ibu Menteri. Ladies and gentlemen, Y20 has an official theme song titled Dengar Alam Bernyanyi, means listen to the nature sings. This song is composed by Indonesian prominent musician Lale Ilma Nino. Through the song, they call on all youth to collaborate in preserving their forests to mitigate climate change. As we all know, forests play an important role for a sustainability and livable planet. Nowadays is a very exciting time. We have faced the pandemic together, and now we are on a transition to endemic. It is a great feeling that we can finally be together face to face. It just cannot be replaced by remote meetings, the energy, the enthusiasms, the feeling of connection. After all, we are a social being. Sesaat lagi kita akan menyaksikan bersama, ini dia theme song, and official theme song dari Y20, yaitu berjudul Dengar Alam Bernyanyi. Lagunya cukup catchy buat Bapak Ibu dan teman-teman yang ingin mendengarkan sambil bernyanyi. Kita akan simak sesaat lagi. I can say the Indonesian is very proud to be G20 presidency. The summit always brings progress not just to the members, but throughout the world. And now please welcome Y20 official theme song, Dengar Alam Bernyanyi.
Bila kau ada waktu, lihat aku di sini. Indah lukisan Tuhan merintih, ingin kau kembali, beri cintamu lagi.
Bila kau jaga aku, ku jaga kau kembali. Berhentilah mengeluh, ingat kau yang pegang kendali, kau yang mampu obati. Sudikah kau kembali? Pandanglah indahnya
That was Y20 Indonesia, Sustainable and Livable Planet. Ladies and gentlemen, in our first talk show, we will talk about safeguarding nature. We invite our moderator, Y20 Indonesia Delegate for Sustainable and Livable Planet, Miss Nashin Mahtani. Please welcome Miss Nashin Mahtani. Ms. Mahtani, the time is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome, distinguished guests and observers, for joining us today virtually, and for those joining us in person in our beautiful host city of Balikpapan, East Kalimantan. My name is Nashin Mahtani, and it is my honor to serve as the Indonesian Youth Delegate for Sustainable Livable Planet. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the first talk show of Y20 Indonesia 2022 Third Pre-Summit, centered around the very necessary topic of safeguarding nature, protecting our oceans, lands, our global commons, and biodiversity. Earlier this year, the International Panel of Climate Change published its latest report assessing the impacts of climate change, looking at ecosystems, biodiversity, and human communities. The report emphasizes that maintaining a healthy planet requires the conservation of at least 30 to 50% of the Earth's land, earth, and ocean and freshwater areas. But one of the main challenges underlying conventional economics is a reliance on the concept of an economy which ignores the physical context of which it is part, working on the assumption that resources are unlimited. We continue to witness the uncontrolled exploitation of land, ocean, and global commons within a framework that presents a trade-off between protecting nature and increasing the wealth of the economy. But a healthy planet is the basis of a thriving society, not an alternative to it. We all need fresh water, clean air, nutritious soils, and a stable climate to survive and thrive. And so today, broadcasting from Indonesia, one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, with some of the largest carbon stocks in the world, we have a chance to touch on these necessary topics on safeguarding our ecosystems to ensure a livable planet for all human and non-human species, the role the G20 can play, and of course, hear from the initiatives on the ground. We have an esteemed group of panelists to join in this discussion. Please allow me to welcome our keynote speaker, Ibu Herlina Hartanto, Executive Director at Yayasan Konservasi Alam Nusantara, where she leads a team of over 120 people to conserve and support sustainable management of tropical rainforests and marine ecosystems in Indonesia. Ms. Herlina works with a variety of stakeholders, including local communities, companies, and local and national governments. Ibu Herlina will give a 10-minute presentation. Ibu Herlina, please come to the stage and the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Nashim. It's really lovely meeting you. Distinguished speakers, Mr. Joseph De Cruz, Mr. Kevin Lunzalu, Mr. Arga Mahanana Nugraha, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. It's a great honor for me to be with you all today to talk about safeguarding nature. Next. But why are we talking about safeguarding nature? What's going on and why? Can we go to the next slide, please? Well, over the past 5 decades, from 1970 to 2017, our global population has doubled. The extractions of materials has tripled, and gross domestic product has quadrupled. The extractions and processing of natural resources has accelerated over the last 2 decades. And since 2000, growth in extraction rates have accelerated to 3.2% per year, driven largely by major investment in infrastructure and higher material living standards. Next. If the historical trends continue, it is projected that global material use would grow by 11 and 10% from 2015 levels to reach 190 billion tons by 2060. It also projects that the use of resources would also grow from 11.9 tons to 18.5 tons per capita. The growth of resource use, for example, pasture and agricultural lands, would result in substantial stress on resource supply systems, higher levels of pressures, and impacts on the environment in the forms of rising greenhouse gas emissions, reductions in the quality and size of forest areas and other natural habitats, as shown on this slide. And we have indeed experienced the result of the interplay of this habitat and environmental degradations in the form of global warming. And next. Many of you may know that in 2015, almost every country in the world signed up to the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. And the agreement actually aims to reduce global warming below 2 degrees Celsius this century, while continuing efforts to limit warming under 1.5 degrees Celsius. However, 2020, 5 years after the climate agreement was signed, was already 1.2 degrees Celsius hotter than the pre-industrial times, or since 1850, as shown on this slide. And the past decade was the hottest in human history. The UN International Panel on Climate Change released a report in 2021 pointing out that both the 1.5 and 2 degree Celsius to reduce that global warming between those 2 degrees will be broken this century unless significant cuts takes place. And it is also, the report tells us that it is indisputable that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, the oceans, and also the land. The consequences, shall we go to the next slide, please? The consequences of going past 1.5 degree would be actually very devastating for all of us in the form of more intense and more frequent heat waves, droughts, heavy rainfall, flooding, intense tropical cyclones, forest fire, coral bleaching, just to name a few. Next. Now, to save the planet Earth, we cannot really overlook nature. We have to protect the rich diversity of microbes, plants, and animals, and the habitats where they live. And we all know that the survival of the millions of microbe, plants, and animals depends on a healthy planet. And this point seems obvious. What may be less obvious is that the reverse is also true. The survival of our planet depends on its creature and the ecosystem. Phytoplanktons are the oxygen factories in the oceans. Bats and bees are important pollinators. And orangutans, that can only be found in Indonesia and Malaysia, are seed dispersers. They provide a very important service in growing and maintaining the forest. And what I found really amazing is that many new species are still discovered until today in remote parts of Indonesia and the world. So how to protect all these important species? Well, to protect them, we have to protect and sustainably manage the different ecosystem where they live. Rainforests are by far the most species diverse habitat in the world. Mangrove in peatlands are also vital ecosystem. And based on our research, together with our partners, tropical forests and wetlands are actually our best defense against climate change because they effectively absorb carbon out of the atmosphere. And next. So the complex challenge we are facing today may seem so daunting, but actually there's a way out. Think globally, understand the interconnectivity and the interdependency among species and the habitats, then take actions wherever we are. And I think no better place actually in the world to witness the spirit of think globally and act locally than in East Kalimantan. It is one of the most economically and ecologically wealthy provinces in Indonesia. In the past, the development in the province was actually driven by natural resource extraction, such as coal mining, logging, and large-scale plantations. Now, after decades of natural resource extractions, the province faced environmental challenges. But in dealing with those challenges, East Kalimantan has become a global leader in planning and implementing strategies that can improve management of tropical landscapes, meet the demand of increased productions, and improve protections of critical natural habitats for the benefits of the local people as well as the rest of the world. In 2010, the governor declared the commitment for Green East Kalimantan. Next. Now, to accelerate and strengthen the efforts to achieve its green visions and missions, in 2015, the East Kalimantan government, with our support, Yayasan Konservasi Alam Nusantara, designed and has been implementing the Green Growth Compact to broaden and strengthen stakeholder collaborations. Under the leadership of the governor and also the coordinations of the East Kalimantan Climate Change Council, the Green Growth Compact attempts, first of all, to strengthen a coalition of leaders to design and oversee compact implementation. Get relevant stakeholders to come to an agreement to work together to solve jurisdictional and landscape problems too complex to solve individually by testing and developing prototype initiative. And lastly, replicate and scale successful prototype initiatives. And next. So the progress of the Green Growth Compact has been very positive so far. More than 300 institutions have taken part in the compact as signatories and or as partners in the implementation of 12 initiatives to tackle complex challenges. They included government agency, private companies, university, community groups, and villages, donor agencies, local and international NGOs. 12 prototype initiative or public-private people partnership are underway right now. They tackle complex challenges and test solutions in different sectors and also at different levels. East Kalimantan was also selected to take part in the implementation of Forest Carbon Partnership Facility, FCPF Carbon Fund Program, that serve as a demonstration of how results-based finance can support the transitions to a low-carbon model for economic development. And next. So I will describe next the 3 East Kalimantan initiative under the Green Growth Compact. One of them actually the initiative at the landscape level that brought together 8 private companies operating in this landscape, government and also the indigenous people to protect and sustainably manage 500,000 landscape of mixed forests in the Weheakalai landscape where 1,200 individual Bornean orangutans lives. It is a big win for East Kalimantan to demonstrate how to manage this orangutan habitat across a huge landscape in ways that protect wildlife and communities and also support businesses. We go next. Now, another initiative is sustainable oil palm to meet global market demand while mitigating deforestation and also forest degradations. Sustainable oil palm is really crucial since estate crop in East Kalimantan is expected to contribute about half of the FCPF total gross emission reductions target of 86.3 million tons carbon dioxide equivalent between 2020 and 2024. The emission contribution is expected to come from reduced deforestation within areas allocated to estate crops. Now, several initiatives included the development of online spatial data to improve siting and licensing processes led by the East Kalimantan Estate Crop Agency, the establishment of multi-stakeholder fora at the provincial and district levels, and the development of enabling policy framework. Next. Now, through a participatory process, the East Kalimantan government identified and declared its commitment to protect and sustainably manage around 470,000 hectares of high conservation value forests, or HCV, in areas slated for oil palm development in 6 districts. Now, in Brau district, with our support, the Brau government and 17 corporate partners have undertaken inventory and also verified nearly 4,300 hectares of HCV within oil palm plantations. And this was followed by the establishment of the Brau HCV network, a multi-stakeholder network committed to promote sustainable management, monitoring, and verification of HCV areas. Another important local actions is the Partnership for Fire Prevention and Management between 30 oil palm companies, Indonesian Oil Palm Association, 99 fire prevention farmer groups, the Crop Estate Agency, Disaster Management Body, Climate Change Council, and 3 NGOs. Now, in this partnership, those key stakeholders work together and actually sharing costs so that the government fire brigade and farmers group are capable and also well equipped to prevent and manage fires if they occur within oil palm concessions area. And this partnership actually already extends over 8 districts in East Kalimantan. Next. Now, another important initiative of the Green Growth Compact is community empowerment. Based on our observations, local and indigenous people can be the best steward of the forest. However, they often face challenges in balancing village development and forest protections. Now, understanding the challenges that the local community face, we developed an approach called SIGAP. This is an Indonesian acronym that means Communities Inspiring Actions for Change, that put community in the driver's seats of green development and forest protections. In 2018, the Brau government adopted our SIGAP approach and led the implementation of SIGAP Sejahtera program in its all 99 villages and engaging young people, the engaging youth as village facilitator to help communities in undertaking proper land use and village development plans, securing rights over forests, and developing forest-compatible livelihood so that they can improve their well-being and also contribute to forest protections. The villages are also connected through the Android-based SIGAP applications. This Brau government-led program entered its 3rd year implementations now and have produced positive result in the form of improved people's well-being, improved village development index, large forest area under community management, and reduced deforestation in those community managed forests. Ladies and gentlemen, in my next slide and my last slide, I think I will sum up by saying that the challenges that we and our planet Earth are facing are very complex. Too complex to be solved by one single individual or organization alone. International cooperations can indeed make important contributions. And as the chair of G20, Indonesia can play a very vital role in encouraging cooperations to produce concrete results in 3 priority sectors, including sustainable future and climate change mitigations. But individuals and local actions cannot be overemphasized. It is very crucial to tap the full potential, intellectual capabilities, creativity of every single individuals, men and women, young and old, to voice their ideas, propose and deliver solutions to achieving systemic change to save our planet. Youth play a crucial role in combating climate change and saving the future of our planet. Everyone should be part of the change to create the future we want, a planet that we share. Using the words of Nicole Stott, a NASA astronaut with whom I have the pleasure of meeting virtually last week, she said, there is no yours and mine when it comes to one thing that we all have in common, one planet. Thank you. Back to you, Nisa.
Thank you so much, Ibu Harlina, for sharing your insights and truly for such a beautiful closing, highlighting as well the interrelatedness of it all and the importance of us working together. There's a lot to think about from that presentation, and it is my honor to introduce a very esteemed group of panelists to discuss these ideas together. Please allow me to introduce our panelists. First, I would like to introduce Mr. Arga Mahanana Nugroho, who is the Director of Digital and Information Technology at Bank Rakyat Indonesia. He has had more than 20 years of experience as an IT professional with a career encompassing IT planning and development, wholesale business, and micro banking. His previous positions include Director of Network and Services, Executive VP of BRI Link Agent Banking Business, VP of Electronic Banking and Retail Payments, and Assistant VP of Wholesale Cash Management. Mr. Nugroho, please do join us on the stage. I would also like to introduce Mr. Joseph de Cruz, who is the CEO of the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil. Mr. de Cruz joined the RSPO as the Chief Executive Officer in March 2022, bringing 20 years of experience in sustainability, having worked across a range of fields, including environmental conservation and climate change, to poverty reduction, economic development, and disaster recovery. During his career, he has worked with governments, industries, and communities at all levels across the Asia Pacific, as well as globally. Mr. Joseph de Cruz, please do join us on the stage. Finally, I would like to welcome our third panelist, who will be joining us on Zoom. Mr. Kevin Lunzalu is the co-founder of the Kenyan Youth Biodiversity Network, a youth-led organization that empowers young people to take informed action in addressing biodiversity loss. Mr. Lunzalu is a marine ecologist with a deep interest in fostering youth-led transformative governance of natural resources and climate justice. Do we have Mr. Kevin joining us on Zoom? Yes. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here today. And to kick off the discussion, I would like to invite all our panelists to share their responses to the presentation that was shared by Ibu Harlina, namely, especially within the context of the G20, composed of some of the largest economies in the world, in an economic system that is built on this assumption of unlimited resources. What is the role of the G20 in committing to protecting nature, and how can we use this forum to accelerate committed and accountable actions to protect our ecosystems? I would like to invite Mr. Nugroho to start with the response.
Okay, thank you, Nasim. So, thank you everyone, the audience that we have tonight. So, Bu Harlina, I think you delivered a very powerful presentation, Bu, and it highlights how a lot of the things that are there in the world needs to be changed in a greater effort to combat climate change, right? So I think Nashim, going back to your question, I think the importance of the role of the countries of G20 is like we are the countries with a great economy, right? So we need to do things, we need to do concrete things, and we need to hasten the speed of change with regard to the efforts that ongoing to battle the climate change. I think that's the most important point at this moment in our lives. Like country director Kakonan mentioned, right? This is the battle of our times, right? This is very crucial for us, especially for us, the younger ones, that we really have a going concern for us all to move forward in life. I guess that's going to be my response to that.
Certainly, that's a very timely and important note. The decisions made today are going to impact future generations to come. Thank you for the response. Mr. Joseph de Cruz, can I invite your response?
Thank you. Thank you, Nashim, and thank you, colleagues. First of all, I want to say I'm really glad that this is actually a pre-summit of youth, because if this was a pre-summit of old people, we'd all be asleep by now. But young people tend to be just waking up around 9, 10 o'clock at night, so I know we have your full attention. You see, on the question, let me just make one point, and perhaps later in the discussion we can come back into more detail. The G20 as a platform has the ability to shape how major governments, major economies of the world set priorities for the future. And one of the biggest challenges we face in the world today, that was referred to very much, Ibu, in your presentation just now as well, is how you balance those priorities. The opportunity for growth, for development, which is important for many young people around the world, while also preserving the sustainability and livability of our planet. Now, balancing those priorities is a question of understanding and negotiating trade-offs amongst them. Where and how do you develop? What do you preserve and what do you protect? And I think if there's one thing the Y20 can take into that G20 discussion is a very clear understanding that the decisions they make have implications and have trade-offs. And to bring into that conversation the perspective of those trade-offs for people who are going to be inhabiting this planet for the next 50 to 100 years. To think about those trade-offs not just in terms of what they mean today, but what they mean for the future. And if you as a group can do that, I think you'll make a tremendous difference to the way in which the G20 looks at their responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that response. And I certainly hope that this will be a place where the youth can voice out their concerns and will be taken into account. Mr. Kevin, can I invite your response?
Thank you. I hope you all can hear me very well. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. My apologies that I can't be there in person with you all, but rest assured that I share in spirit the agenda of this crucial meeting of sustainable and livable planet. Going straight into your question, as a young person from Kenya, I appreciate the fact that decisions that are made by the G20 affect not just the regions to which the leadership represents, but goes beyond that, and the implications, as mentioned by the previous speaker, cover the entire world. The G20 leadership must recognize the fact that the cost of collective inaction is very dire. We need a transformative path out of the current crisis that we are currently facing. We must recognize the role of young people in addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, and all the catastrophes that the world is currently facing, especially the global south, where the impact is disproportionately felt. As the G20 leadership, it's important to recognize the fact that some of the countries that are contributing heavily to the climate crisis are located in those zones. And so it's only just and fair that the G20 addresses some of the socio-economic and environmental injustices that are felt across the world. And lastly, I'd like to emphasize the fact that transformative change is urgently needed, and this will only be achieved by reimagining the systems. We need to reconsider our production and consumption patterns, our economic models, and transformative education, and most importantly, intergenerational equity, to realize that future generations also do have a healthy, passionate planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that incredibly insightful response, Kevin. And I thank you for highlighting the importance of social justice, how that is inextricably tied to climate justice. They are not separate. And especially the point of needing systemic change as well. These are things that need a lot of support. So perhaps a follow-up on that response. As the co-founder of a youth organization, what does meaningful youth participation in policy space look like for you? And what support or what further support is needed from our governments to facilitate that space in a legitimate and meaningful way?
Thank you. So meaningful engagement of young people, to me, starts by giving them this space like the one where we are right now, where they can be open, they can air their frustrations, they can share their insights, and they can cross-pollinate. As young people, we recognize the need for deliberate, targeted, inclusive, and open engagement in biodiversity decision-making processes at all levels, so spanning from local governance of natural resources to the national and international fora. We need to be included as young people in the inception, execution, and implementation of frameworks, because what we have seen in the past is that young people have only been engaged, if any, when it comes to implementation. We need to reverse that and start engaging young people early in the process so that they feel that they are part of the transformation that the world needs to take. We need to take into considerations the insights of young people. We need to formulate advisory committees where possible, engage youth networks and youth-led movements, enhance innovation, create youth innovation centers, and establish adequate and accessible funding that is targeted for youth programs. Lastly, we need to provide safe spaces that will harness youth energy towards the goals and aspirations that we want to see. In the past, we have repeatedly, and it has been presented in the large-scale failure of countries to, for example, attain the ambitions of the Paris Agreement. What we need to do is enhance youth entrepreneurship so that we can scale up innovations from the ground up, create green jobs, and make young people the transformative agents of the inspirations and aspirations that we want as a society.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing those thoughts. And I certainly hope these are things that we can follow up on through summits like this and in leading up to the G20 summit. Kevin, one of the things you mentioned was access to funding. And since we have some very notable experts here, I would like to ask Mr. Nugroho a follow-up question on this, because the 2017 study estimated that less than 10% of climate finance went to local groups and the most vulnerable, which include youth. And so as the director of one of the largest state-owned enterprises, could you share your thoughts on closing the gap to access climate finance and how local youth groups could more effectively bring our aspirations to large institutions such as BRI?
Okay, thank you for that question, Nashim. So I think I agree with your point that more is definitely needed in terms of funding the right kind of projects that supports the protecting the nature, right? So I think BRI at this point, we as a bank, we provided like 71 trillion rupiah in terms of funding that goes to green projects, right? So but this consists only like 7.5% of our overall funding. So definitely more needs to be done. So what I think one thing that can be encouraged in terms of pushing through this funding problem is through building more awareness. So and I think the awareness part is really crucial because awareness is half the battle, right? If we can encourage people to know more about the state of how things are in this climate change condition. So I think they'll be better equipped to be able to be in this fight together, right? So in terms of funding, I think awareness is one key, and the other is governmental support, like incentives and more technical assistance, such as how we measure carbon neutrality, calculating the carbon gap, those kind of stuff. I think this is going to be crucial in terms of pushing through this agenda of us. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you so much. I think awareness is a huge component of this. And oftentimes we become aware of things when they hit us most directly. I think in the recent months, we have seen the direct impacts, I think, all over the world on palm oil exports. And so I would like to move on then to ask Mr. Joseph de Cruz a follow-up question relating to this. The tensions between biodiversity, climate justice, and the palm oil industry have very long histories. We cannot get into them fully today, but within the framework of this discussion, could you share the ambition of palm oil certification for conservation and biodiversity protection, and perhaps some of the challenges that remain in implementation, monitoring, and accountability of RSPO certification?
And you want me to do all of that in 5 minutes? Okay, let me give it a shot. I think your colleagues have some slides my team prepared, which may or may not come up in a moment. But let me start with them, and I'll sort of catch up with where the slides are. So let me first of all tell you a little bit about the RSPO, because I think that's an important part of the story. The Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil is an association that brings together growers of palm oil, large corporations, as well as independent and small growers, buyers, consumers, environmental and social NGOs, and they've come together to create and apply a set of standards for how to produce palm oil sustainably. And those standards are actually, honestly, the most robust standards for sustainable production of any agricultural crop I've ever seen. That's why I took over the role of CEO 2 months ago, because I believe that this is a tremendous example of how it's possible to balance the social, the environmental, and the economic dimensions of sustainability, if it's done well. Now, if the slides appear, I'll ask the EO team to go straight to slide number 7. And since you can't see it, I'm going to describe it for you. So basically what the slide shows, as many of you know, is that the tropical band of the planet, the tropical countries, are where most of the biodiversity in the world exists. The megadiverse regions all the way from the Brazilian Amazon, through the Congo, through to Southeast Asia, right to where we are here in Borneo, which is one of the most megadiverse, one of the most rich regions from an ecological perspective anywhere in the world. Right? So, preserving and protecting this part of the world is incredibly important from a climate and an ecological point of view. And I guess all of you know that, or you wouldn't be here in this room. Now, slide number 6, which the EO team is desperately trying to find, shows the same map of the world and shows levels of poverty across that entire band. From Brazil, Latin America, through the heart of Africa, through much of South Asia, over into Southeast Asia and the Pacific. And what you see on that slide, and we can send the slides to you later, is levels of poverty are some of the highest in the world. Here we go. Keep going, guys. I'll tell you when to stop. Are some of the highest in the world through exactly that same band. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oops, back up, stop right here, okay? So when you look at this, oh, back up, too fast. I like messing with these guys. This is what I meant about the areas of poverty. So if you look across this band, and that band in the middle is exactly the prime areas for growing oil palm, you see tremendous levels of poverty all the way across until you come to, oops, an area of green. And I can tell you, we don't have enough time to get into it now, but one of the major reasons why the levels of poverty, particularly rural poverty, are much lower in Malaysia and Indonesia than they are in many other similar parts of the world is because of the potential of sustainable production of agriculture, particularly oil palm. So what you have there is an example of how carefully balancing the different elements of sustainability, the environmental, the social, the economic, can give you a solution that meets the needs of current and future generations. Can we do that in a way that stays within ecological limits? Yes. Next slide, please. Is oil palm a critical example of that? Next slide. And it is, and in fact, my colleagues quote a slide here, a report done recently, not by us, an independent report, that talks about the fact that oil palm plantations are not pure hotspots of biodiversity, but managed well, managed in the way that our members manage them, they actually provide a tremendous ecological benefit. As many of you who live in this part of the world, who live here in Kalimantan Timur know, when you see the landscapes around here in this part of the world. So short answer after a very long speech, yes, it's possible to balance biodiversity, climate, and oil palm if it's done well. We have in the RSPO a coalition of members around the world that are demonstrating how that can be done. And if we can bring more support into partnerships like this, I think we can make a tremendous change in this space. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have a lot of follow-up questions, but I would also like to say that The floor is open for questions from the audience. If anyone wants to raise their hand and ask a question before I steal all of the rest of the time. And also anyone watching on Zoom, feel free to share your questions either in the chat box or raise your hand and we'll address them directly. Is there any question from the room, perhaps? If there's none, as yet, until we wait for one, I will steal this time. Maybe a follow-up on this last slide that you shared about biodiversity. Perhaps could you share a little bit more about how the RSPO addresses the palm oil industry's logic of expansion and which generally manifests in the form of monoculture plantations that are a threat to biodiversity, require a lot of pesticides and water, and are also susceptible to fungal outbreaks.
Now we're getting really technical. So, two quick answers. First of all, one of the core elements of the RSPO standard is that it requires any of the growers, whether it's large plantations or small independent growers, to identify and protect areas of their plantations, of their landscapes that are of high conservation value or have high carbon stocks. So built into this principle is the identification and management of the biodiversity resources that are found within these oil palm landscapes. Okay? Secondly, in terms of the biodiversity ecology within the plantations themselves, there's a lot of really good work being done, particularly with smallholders, on how you can actually grow palm oil in ways that enhance biodiversity. Whether it is examples that are being piloted right here in Kalimantan around using biochar instead of fertilizer, whether it is intercropping, whether it is protection of riparian corridors and wildlife corridors, there's a lot of work that's been done to improve the way this happens. Is this all working well? No. You're right that the traditional conventional plantation model tends to have tremendous negative impacts. But I think the industry is getting a lot better at this. And over time, what the RSPO partnership does is we also continue to raise our standards. Every 5 years, we review the standards and we up the game in terms of what we expect our members to do to protect biodiversity, also protect the livelihoods of the workers and owners of plantations, the social conditions, as well as to ensure that everybody who's involved in this industry is able to live decent and meaningful lives with dignity. You've got 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. And with those 5 minutes, I mean, I just want to touch on that point that you brought up, the importance of working with smaller scale groups and individuals, especially the importance of locals in leading these initiatives and working with them in improving those standards and developing the standards. And so for our last 5 minutes, perhaps I'll return back to Ibu Herlina on that note and ask a little more about your work. Can you tell us about the people who are at the forefront of conservation?
Sure. Yeah, well, thank you so much for that last question. Last questions is really an honor to take that last one. But I have to tell you that my experience in working over 2 decades in Indonesia, the local people that really managing the forest on the ground is really inspiring, to be honest. Every time I went to the village, what I actually looking for actually inspirations, because they are really the ones that day in, day out managing the forest. They're really the one that has to struggle how to balance between the needs to get cash for their children's educations, to get some money to send if their family members sick and need some health care, and at the same times, their identity, their culture is really tied to the forest. If their forests are gone, they'll lost their identity. And I think actually if one of you haven't really had a chance to talk to Pak Friendly, can you stand up, Pak Friendly? Yes, Pak Friendly is actually from Rabu village and we should give him a big round of applause. He's also he's village member. Is one of my inspiring example. It's a very small village, 4 hours away from Tanjung Redep, the capital town of Brau district. This is a small village that somehow managed to protect and manage the largest social forestry or the largest community forestry in East Kalimantan. And they still continue to do that. And Pak Friendly is very good with social media, with Facebook, with Twitter, and she tweet madly about the beauty of his village, so people can really appreciate and can understand. If you protect the forest, you protect your life, you protect your identity, then you will be prosper. I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Harlina. I think that's such a beautiful note to end on. And thank you also so much, Pak Friendly, for joining us. Such an honor to be in your presence and learn from the work that you're doing directly on the ground as well. And so I know there's still a lot we can discuss and that we will continue to, but formally we will close the session. And as we've heard from our speakers and panelists today, tackling these issues requires the work from multiple stakeholders. It will require broad social and political alliances, local initiatives, as well as institutional action. All of this must play a part in this broad community, looking towards a horizon of peace, justice, equality, and social rights within planetary boundaries. Thank you all for being here today, and I wish everyone a good night. Thank you.
Ya, saya. Foto bersama dulu ya mereka ya.
Once again, please give a round of applause to our moderator, Ms. Mahtani. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the speakers. Before we end this day, I would like to invite delegation observers and guest observers to take a photo together in the stage. Once again, I would like to invite the delegation observers, guest observers to take a photo. Ladies and gentlemen, before we end this day, we would like to thank our partners who will continue to work alongside us as we move forward. The Y20 organizer from every country of G20 member, we also wish our delegates to have fruitful discussion and negotiation ahead. And tomorrow, you can watch our town hall meeting, a discussion between Indonesian delegates and local youth of Central Indonesia on Y20 YouTube channel. And also, do not miss the second talk show, which will be about promoting a circular economy, live stream at 7 p.m. Central Indonesian time. On behalf of the Y20 co-chair and the organizing committee from Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, we thank you for attending the opening ceremony and the first talk show of the third pre-summit of Y20 Indonesia 2022. Once again, welcome to wonderful Indonesia, the host of Y20 Indonesia. I'm Bunga Harumdani Auf. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow.